Hey, work from homers, Adam Schrader here. We love bringing you this podcast, and thousands of you have proven that it's been helpful for you. But since time and online storage space aren't free, Naresh and I wanted to come to you personally to ask for your financial support through Patreon. Go to patreon.com/workfromhomeshow and help support the show. And we appreciate your support at any amount you choose. That's patreon.com/workfromhomeshow. Thanks for your support. Let's get to the show.
Forced to work from home by your employer? Laid off or feeling depressed at home? Do you want to make money working from anywhere? We'll show you how to do it from your couch. It's time for another episode of the Work From Home Show. Coming to you from their homes in Austin, Texas and Tampa, Florida, here are your hosts, Adam and Naresh.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Work From Home Show. Shout out to all our homies, homeboys, homegirls, home trans, all the work from homers out there. I'm Naresh Vissa with Adam Schrader. Today we have Lynn Lehmkuhl on the show. Lynn is the former head publisher at the Yoga Journal, and she's a best-selling author of Chair Yoga for Seniors, stretches and poses that you can do sitting down at home. The reason why we are bringing Lynn on the show is because, as if you've been listening to us since the beginning, we like talking about health and wellness. We like talking about how you can stay in shape and stay healthy while you're working at home. And Lynn is one of the world's most foremost, she is one of the world's biggest experts when it comes to work from home yoga. So Lynn, thanks so much for joining us on the Work From Home Show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Well, let's start with your background. Tell us how you got into yoga, how long you've been doing it, and then tie that into the pandemic, the lockdowns that happened in March 2020, and any advice you have to our listeners listening.
Okay. I was for many years an advertising executive in New York City and also a yogi. I started practicing yoga actually as a runner. I was an avid runner, and the New York Road Runners Club started a yoga for runners program, and it was in the basement of a high school gym, and I would go once a week, and, I was there just to keep flexible for my running. And I realized that, I kind of like this, and decided to break out of the gym basement and go and actually find a real live yoga studio, which I did in the early 90s. So I did it just as a hobby, as a wellness pursuit, and loved it, just really enjoyed practicing. And then in 2001, right after 9/11, again, I was living in New York City, so it was very, very up close and personal for me. I just got really closer to my yoga practice than I had been up until then, and decided to do yoga teacher training. And I did it just as for a personal experience, because I was still an advertising executive, kind of jetting all over the country, visiting sales offices and clients. And so I started this 9-month-long teacher training and did it on the weekends and a couple nights during the week, and got my certification. I became a registered yoga teacher. But it took me until 2000, I believe, and 13 to actually realize it as a career. And so I decided back then, like almost 8 years ago, that I wanted to devote my life to teaching yoga. But yoga teachers in New York, they were kind of a dime a dozen. Like, there's so many, and they were young, much younger than I. And at that time, when I was thinking about doing this, but also realizing that this was going to be hard to do, hard to break into, what started to emerge back then, 7 or 8 years ago. And I just kept reading about it. Of course, on social media and different blogs, I was signed up for anything to do with yoga because I was so passionate about it. But what emerged was that there was a growing segment of yoga called chair yoga, and that it was designed primarily for seniors for all the obvious reasons in terms of not necessarily very good balance, or just feeling the need to be safe and secure while sitting down, not able to actually get down on one's hands and knees and on a yoga mat. But also that chair yoga was becoming kind of a thing for people who, people in the workplace who spent way too much time sitting down and not really getting up and not exercising. And then also another element was it was very appealing to people who had injuries, say a knee replacement, or some kind of hip replacement or hip problems. So I thought, well, I kind of like that. I like the segmentation of this specific type of yoga. So I looked around and kind of Googled around. Was there specific training for chair yoga? Because my training was in classical yoga, and I found that there was actually a woman named Lakshmi Volker. She was based in California, and she is the preeminent chair yoga teacher. She designed a program for yoga teachers that she basically, and she still does, goes around the country to different centers, and yoga teachers kind of sign up for this 2-week intensive. And I learned how to, so I pursued it. Coincidentally, she was coming to New York very soon after I had this epiphany, and I took her program and then started doing it. And my first gig was a volunteer I volunteered at a Alzheimer's daycare center, and I am still doing it, and doing it now on Zoom with Alzheimer's clients of this center. And I figured, well, let me, this is a perfect kind of audience and constituency in which to sort of hone my craft. And it turned out to be an amazing experience and really wonderful. And I learned so much from people that I was teaching who actually really couldn't absorb my words so much that they really were incapable of following my verbal direction, but they were able to follow my physical direction by mimicking me. And it was just a great experience. But I went on to teach classes, workplace classes. I worked with a lot of private one-on-one clients, and was doing that until the pandemic hit. And immediately all of my private clients went away, and anyone I was teaching, either in a class setting or one-on-one in people's homes, for all the obvious reasons. Especially, I'm sure you recall, New York City was really kind of the epicenter early on in March and April of the pandemic. So I, within a week, just kind of lost all my practice and what I was kind of doing. What I did have was my book that I had written maybe 6 months before, and it was published in April of 2020, right smack at the beginning of the pandemic. And what evolved over time was the book started selling very well. I think a lot because of the pandemic. Was selling online, Amazon and Target and Walmart, and people were home and they were sitting, and they were either working from home or just sitting at home. And so the book was doing well, and I started to, I was taking online courses and classes on how to set up a thriving kind of Zoom practice, and was able, most of my clients were kind of older and not very tech savvy. So the whole concept of doing my one-on-ones on Zoom was rather daunting to some people. But I got some people over the hurdle, and now I have a thriving Zoom practice with clients, and it also I have been trying to focus more and more on younger people, not seniors, but people who are working from home but sitting all day, where they probably didn't do that before the pandemic. And so I have this very full range of teaching material, from working with people who are really actually very physically fit to people who have myriad physical issues and problems. That was a very long-winded answer to your question.
Yeah. So you mentioned, and it seems very true, that kind of yoga instructors in today's world do seem kind of a dime a dozen. So if you're just starting out, and especially if you're just starting out like on the Zoom world, how do you sort through who you should trust whenever it comes to starting your practice?
Oh, this is for someone who's looking for a teacher online?
Yeah, if a lot of people, if you've been doing yoga, you've been going to a studio or whatever, and maybe your teacher is doing it on Zoom now. But if you're sitting at home and you're realizing, oh my gosh, I need to get started, how do you kind of vet people?
The first thing you do is in what you actually just mentioned. See if anyone that you've ever worked with, either a studio or a specific yoga teacher, is doing it online. So right off the bat, you have a comfort level with a person that, or a studio that you've experienced. You have personal experience with them. Beyond that, I would say that I would test options out. Most places, there are on YouTube, and I have friends who have told me there are some free classes that people take advantage of, some 30-minute, like simple kind of 101 yoga classes. They're free, and that's definitely an option. But if you're a little bit more serious about your practice and really want a more in-depth experience, I would say that I would Google around and see who's doing it. And just about everyone who's charging, and of course we're all not all of us, but most of us are attempting to charge for our services. Most options, what they really do is give you a trial, like a 7-day free, or try the first class for free. I would say dabble, do that, experiment, and ask around. Ask if you're a yogi, if you've been practicing yoga for a while, other people who practice yoga. It's like walking your dog and you see someone who's walking a dog of the same breed. You immediately have like this insane bond. Yogis have that bond. So if you're a yogi, and by yogi I mean someone who practices yoga fairly consistently, you're going to know a lot of people in the world of yoga who practice. Ask around. That's what I suggest. Say, are you doing anything? Are you accessing any classes? And experiment. There's no harm in giving us an option online a shot. You could in the first 10 minutes say, oh, this stinks. This is stupid. I don't like this. Or that person has horrible alignment. What is she or he, teaching for? That's my recommendation. Ask around, ask people you trust, and experiment. Play around. Take some yoga classes, and but as far as doing one-on-one and then paying that, obviously that's going to be more expensive one-on-one. I would really ask people for recommendations. Try someone and say, can I have maybe a 10-minute class from you, a one-on-one, just to see if I feel like this will work for me. That's how I would go about it.
Talking about specific exercises and positions, I know this is an audio podcast, but maybe you can communicate through just maybe instructions or give us some resources. But to our listeners who are working their butts off, sitting at home on a chair in front of their computer, What poses, what exercises do you recommend that they do just for
Hmm.
maybe 5 minutes a day, or in between emails or in between
Sure.
meetings? Easy stuff. Assume that they're either
Right.
sitting on a couch
Uh-huh.
in front of their TV and working, or that they're in a home office on a chair.
Okay. Well, any clients that I work with, I'm always telling them what to do when they're watching TV at commercial time. And so
Oh, good.
I have a very ready answer. Probably the most important, and this is for people of any age. If you're sitting a lot, you should do a couple times a day. And for older people who have physical limitations, this is not easy, but I make them do it. It's simply called sit to stand. And that is getting up out of your chair, standing up, sitting down, standing up, sitting down. And for youngish, fit people who don't have any physical limitations, I would say every half hour, do 8 to 10. Just literally stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down. And to make it a little bit harder, you put your arms straight out in front of you while you're doing that. That is probably the single most important pose or exercise that I can recommend, because by sitting, your glute muscles are literally atrophying if you're sitting too much day in and day out.
Yeah.
And by standing up and sitting down, that just activates your glutes, your hips, and keeps you strong. You need those muscles to sit down and stand up, and to walk and to climb stairs. So that's my number one. For tension release, anxiety release, which is very commonplace with working for basically too long at it and in front of a computer screen, is a couple of things. One is shoulder rolls. Just simply inhale your shoulders up, back, down, and around. Inhale up, back, down, and around, and then reverse. I would say do 10 shoulder rolls, 10 in one direction, maybe 5 in the awkward direction. And if you're doing this now, as I tell you, when you do the up to the front and down, it feels kind of awkward, but it's a good balance. Shoulder rolls are a great neck and shoulder tension reliever. Then I would say shoulder shrugs, inhaling shoulders up, straight up to your ears, and exhaling your shoulders down. Inhaling your shoulders straight up to your ears and exhaling down. And also with shoulder rolls, doing them one at a time. Rolling one shoulder and then the other, and then the other, and then the other, and kind of the torso gets involved. Those are just loosening up, warming up the upper body, and especially in the neck and shoulder region, which is really the classic place where we hold anxiety and tension. Now, for your legs, if you're barefoot, ideal, and probably most people are in sweatpants and barefoot, sit back in your chair, extend both legs, and then do point and flex with your feet. Point your toes, flex your toes, point your toes, flex your toes, and then start doing ankle and foot circles. You can do them one leg at a time, where your leg is extended or both are extended, and the only thing that's moving is the foot and ankle. Slow, as big as you can, circles, but slowly, and really articulate the movement and reverse the direction. And I would say those are the ones that you can do where you literally just push your chair away from your desk a little bit. And of the things that I said to do, the only thing that you have to do is basically take off your shoes if you have them on. And most people working from home probably don't have their shoes on. So you're all set to go.
What I'm understanding, to put it into one sentence, is when you're sitting down watching TV, or when you're sitting down working from home, just try to move your body. Put your legs out, put your feet out, put your arms out, and just wiggle around and move your body.
Yes.
That's
Yes,
the
I
easy
gave
way to
more,
say it.
more specific ways of doing that, but bottom line, that is what it is all about. It's movement. Otherwise, everything just goes atrophies and is just you become weak and inflexible and no and immobile and not real good mobility. And who doesn't want to be flexible and strong and mobile? I
Yeah,
certainly do.
and you don't want the college kids who are graduating these days, they're going straight to work from home jobs. And
Right.
you don't want to be, because look, I started working from home full time when I was 24 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And within a month I was like, this isn't healthy. So there was a gym right across the street. I was living near downtown Baltimore at the time,
Uh-huh.
and there was a gym across the street, so I got a membership there, walked over there and would work out 4 to 5 days a week. And then when I moved down to Florida, same thing, there was no gym nearby, so I said I got to do something. So I
Mm-hmm.
joined a beach volleyball group and a
I love
tennis
it.
group and started doing that. But then now pandemic happened and I'm married with a kid, and I don't have that freedom to just
Right.
walk down the street to the beach and play beach volleyball. So I've needed new ways to get that exercise working from home and taking care of my son. It's been great exercise taking care of my son, just carrying
Oh
him
yeah.
around and
Yes,
picking him
absolutely.
up and doing stuff with him. That's been good exercise without even trying. It was like a
Mm-hmm.
necessity. But now you've given me some ideas to, because I've, watching TV, for example, people don't think, oh, I can exercise while watching TV. It's a bad habit of just sitting on a chair and laying back.
Oh
So
God, yes.
now I'm more aware of doing these things that you said.
Well, good. Years ago, I had read something about never sit more than 30 minutes without at least just standing up. But ideally, like go for a walk in your apartment or your house. Just walk to another room and back, and then sit down again. And I wore a Fitbit at the time. I don't. I now am I am literally personally like a walking Fitbit. I'm so obsessed with fitness, but I would program my Fitbit to give me like this little shock every 30 minutes if I hadn't gotten up. And it was a great reminder. It was like, whoa, I can't believe 30 minutes just went by and I didn't stand up. But if you can do a mental note of even starting off with maybe a little alarm on your watch or something, never sit more than 30 minutes without standing up, moving a little bit, moving your legs, moving your feet. That's really an ideal measure. And, back when I used to actually go to movie theaters, remember that? Remember movies? Well, you can't remember, you're not going to go to movies for a long time with a baby, but I used to just stand up after 30 minutes, I'm sure much to the annoyment of people behind me. But I became obsessed with not ever sitting for longer than 30 minutes without standing up. And it's a very good kind of rule to have for yourself.
How much time do we need to be putting into a yoga practice to really make it effective? Or not, I mean, I guess it's going to vary person by person, but how much time do you feel you need to do every day to kind of continue your yoga practice effectively?
20 to 30 minutes. That's all. I do other things. I mean, I do shadow boxing classes online. I do HIIT training, high intensity intervals training. Because yoga it's not a cardio workout. It's everything but. So I add cardio, which everyone should be if you're capable.
It
But
felt
as
like
far
a
as
cardio workout whenever I was doing it years ago. I'll tell you that.
all right. There was a big, especially in the 90s. It was called power yoga. It was like, whoa, and like you'd be dripping with sweat. Yeah,
Oh
yeah. I'm
no, I
not
was
doing
dripping
that.
with sweat and it wasn't even power yoga. I'm just I just sweat
You're
a
a
lot. What are your
sweater.
thoughts on like the hot yoga and all of those trends?
Nah. Silly. Yeah, who does hot yoga, and this is terrible. This is probably so not politically correct, but it's like young women who are
I knew
just
you were going to say
really trying
that.
to lose weight. You know what? It's trying to like fast forward the process. The biggest drawback with hot yoga is that it tricks your muscles into believing that they really are as lithe and limber as they are when it's really hot. And then you tend to go into deeper into poses where you shouldn't be. And it feels okay because it's so hot and everything has been so warmed up. But you really, the likelihood of injuring muscles that way is really high. And to me, it's so unpleasant. And the few hot classes I would take, forgive me, but I have to say, too smelly and slippery. And it'd be like, oh, wow, look what I can do. Because, I can bend in this, I can just lay my torso down on the floor. It was like, and then the next day be like, I can't even move because I was putting my body into a place it didn't belong. So obviously not a big fan of hot yoga.
I have to say, I'm imagining every time that we're asking a question, this is audio only, so I'm imagining every time we start asking a question, you're just getting up and down and doing like some up downs while we're asking questions. I have to admit, that's what's going on in my head.
Oh my God, I haven't moved. I haven't moved, but I took boxing class this morning. I taught a class, a one-on-one, about an hour ago. So, all right, it's audio and you can't see me do this, but I am now standing up because now you've made me feel really guilty. Okay, now I'm sitting down.
Yeah, well, talking about how much time you should spend, I don't think, based on your book and what you've talked about, it's not a set, I need to spend 30 minutes a day doing this. It's just, hey, I'm watching TV. Let's
there's that.
Put those legs out.
The book has specific programs, beginner and intermediate. And for both beginner and intermediate, I lay out a 20-minute program and a 30-minute program for each of the levels. So that's my basic recommendation. Try to do at least 20 minutes and work up to 30 minutes, or do 30 minutes when you have the time or the inclination. So because the book is geared towards seniors, I'm not really envisioning a group of people who, are ready to do a 90-minute power yoga class. But I would say 30 minutes in the chair. I even hesitate to say this because people are like, oh, you're crazy. I think you should do something every day. If 3 or 4 of the days is only the 20 minutes, and then say 3 days you do the 30, do something every day and do a minimum of, say, 15 or 20 minutes. That should be the least amount that you do. Because it feels good and it's good for you and it's not really hard. I do in the intermediate portions of the book for both the beginner, the intermediate 20-minute and 30-minute. I do introduce hand weights to build to work on a little bit on strength and muscle building, and just keeping muscles strong and productive. And so my goal in the book was very much to get you hooked, make you say, you know what, I like this. This makes me feel good. And I enjoy doing it. And I highly recommend playing music while you're doing it. And not like airy-fairy yoga music. I'm talking, do you love Frank Sinatra? Just play Frank Sinatra. Or, whatever music you love. Play that music and create a scenario and a situation in a milieu where you feel good, and you're going to want to do this if you create that environment, and then the likelihood of you sticking with it is much greater.
Now, your book is called Chair Yoga for Seniors. Do you recommend that if you're younger, you do kind of like your normal, typical, like what you think of yoga, or is chair yoga just as effective as, your typical yoga classes?
I would say, you sound pretty young to me. I would say if you have a yoga practice, a traditional yoga practice, don't switch over to chair yoga. I would use elements of chair yoga, and what we talked about at the outset is in this kind of new normal of the pandemic, where we're sitting a lot and sitting and working. So it's not like, from 2 to 3, I'm going to, do an online, jumping through the air kind of a class. No, because I have work. I have a meeting. I have, Zoom meetings, and I'm working. That's when I think elements of chair yoga are ideal, where you're literally sitting. You could actually be working. Turn off the video for a little while and, do your sit to stands. But I would say that for someone who has a regular traditional yoga practice, this would be supplemental, and it's when you're kind of tied to a chair for like work purposes. But if you have any kind of, say you've never exercised before, and there are a few of those people out there, believe it or not.
Or I know them personally. I've got family members like that. Yeah,
yeah, we all do. So you can be, 28 and just not really fit. And this is a great introduction to it, because traditional yoga, especially, chaturangas and, doing a number of different poses, can be daunting and intimidating. So I would say this is a great start for people who are don't have obvious physical issues, but just have a pretty low fitness level. And certainly anyone with knee injuries or any kind of recent injuries, this is an ideal thing to pursue, and then to maybe graduate from. Maybe this is someone's first introduction to yoga, and the way I started with yoga for runners, I was there for a purpose, for the yoga to make something else better, and I realized I actually really liked the yoga. That's kind of a very aspirational goal of mine with the book, is to inspire people to move on.
Yeah, and I'll also say regarding this question that Adam asked, even though the title of your book is called Chair Yoga for Seniors, the concept of chair yoga is applicable to anybody who's spending a significant amount of time sitting on a chair.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's why I brought you on our show, because we don't have a senior citizen listener base. Mm-hmm. That's not our target audience. They don't listen to that many podcasts. But when I saw chair yoga, I said, you know what? I want to learn some of these chair yoga poses. And I checked out your book. And by the way, check out her book. It's available on Amazon and all other bookstores. But I said, I've been working from home since 2013. And I'm not one of those people who's tied down to the home. I do everything at home. I work at home. I take care of my son at home. And I have been somewhat of a homebody since 2013. But I've always made an attempt to take 15 minutes out of the day and go for a minimum 1 mile run. Or I just came back before this interview. I took my son on a 3 mile walk. So we walked 3 miles together. Every day I try to do something, but not everyone has that time to where they can just take 30 minutes out of their day. Really, it's longer. You got to shower and do other things to get ready. So it's really longer. Let's say an hour. Take an hour out of your day just to do some push-ups or sit-ups or run or go to the gym or play tennis. It's a time commitment. And chair yoga, it's great. It's great because you don't have to take that time out of your day now. Like you said, you could do the 20-minute plan, the 30-minute plan, or you could just get it drilled in your mind. Hey, I'm sitting watching golf on TV. Let's take the hands out. Let's stand up, sit back down, stand up, sit back down, take the feet out. So I think that's pretty cool. Lynn, do you have any other tips for our listeners you want to share, or anything else you want to promote?
Post-its. Remind yourself, put it on your computer screen, because you're not going to remember to do these things. to take these little breaks. So there's those little random like shoulder rolls and
Yep.
toe flexes, and
I agree.
Do the little old school Post-its, and then after about 2 weeks, maybe you can just throw those Post-its away, because it'll become second nature.
That's a great idea. The website is elderchairyoga.com, elderchairyoga.com, also yogajournal.com, where Lynn was a former head publisher, yogajournal.com, and elderchairyoga.com. Lynn Lehmkuhl, thank you so much for joining us on the Work From Home Show.
Thank you. It was fun.
And to all our listeners, check out all of our previous episodes at workfromhomeshow.com. That's www.workfromhomeshow.com. Get on our mailing list. Leave us reviews on iTunes, TuneIn, Spotify, Stitcher, any podcasting platform that we're on Amazon, Audible as well. Leave us a review. We'll send you something free of charge if you contact us at hello@workfromhomeshow.com. That's hello@workfromhomeshow.com. Send us your reviews, your comments, questions, tips, anything at all. And until next week, keep on working from home.